Happy October. If you're listening to this on its air date, it will be the early part of October. And I wanted to talk about a topic that I think is really important as we're thinking not only about the start of a new month, but also the close of the last quarter of the year. And if you're someone who thinks in quarters, maybe this will bring some impact to you because you might be thinking about this being your last portion of the year to achieve what it is that you've set out to achieve this year. And maybe you didn't start out thinking about what you wanted to achieve this year, or you didn't create concrete goals for yourself. So, this is going to be the perfect episode for you to listen how to do that and find a way that you can do it in a method I teach that is super impactful in not only deciding what habits or what goals you want to bring into your life, but also how to easily stick to what you say and stick to what your goals are. As we get started, know that this is going to be a multi-part series. So what I'm going to teach you is not going to necessarily be in completion today. I'll have following episodes that will add on to this, but I think just taking away the knowledge that you're going to glean from this episode is going to be really impactful. And decide that you can achieve goals by creating habits. I don't know if habits to you, if you automatically go to bad habits and classifying things that we call habits as things that we don't necessarily love doing, or things that we don't think that we have control over, or things that are going to be really hard to break. But I'm going to offer you an opportunity to think about habits in the way that they're new things that you're bringing into your life and new things that you're doing, new things that you're incorporating more of a focus on in your days, months, whatever it is, and how creating new habits can help you achieve goals. I love goals. The majority of women who choose to work with me are much like me in the fact that we're used to having a goal and knowing how to go after it. And maybe going through fertility treatments and not becoming a mom was the first time that you've ever really seen yourself as not being able to achieve a goal. Some of us come to the end of our fertility journey after not being able to become moms, and we pick up this perception that we're no longer good at achieving our goals. And this one setback that we had, or this one goal that we were not able to achieve of motherhood, seems to dictate what our future is going to look like. And that we think we're much less focused or maybe good at doing the things that we see as goals. So let's start thinking of them as habits that we're going to bring in. I'm going to give you some exercises today. So if this is something that you're interested in, I encourage you, if you have your journal or something that you like to do your paper thinking in, have it handy, or maybe pause, come back to this when you have some time to really put some thought into it, because this is going to be a game changer for you. I first like to brainstorm, what are the things that I want more of in my life? And what are the things that I maybe want to take more of a focused approach to, and just brainstorm, just kind of paper think. What are all these things that sound good? Or maybe you hear someone talk about and you think, oh gosh, I wish I was somebody who would insert blank. You decide what it is. And I'll tell you what I decided for this week, for this month, and for this last quarter of the year. I chose 3 habits that I want to pay attention to and bring more of in my life. So those are getting movement, some sort of physical movement 3 times a week. Yes, I walk Coco every day. We go for a walk somewhere nearby, but I want to really have some good movement, some good physical activity. Vitamins, and taking my vitamins daily. I don't know if I'm the only one who's gone through this. If I'm not, I would love to know, because I don't know that I've ever talked about this publicly. But after I finished my fertility treatments, I was so turned off by vitamins. I felt like I was on so many supplements. I had this whole drawer. If you had your IVF drawer like I did, I had all my IVF, the needles, I had my alcohol pads, I had all of my vitamins and all of my supplements and the things that I had to take along with my prescription medications. I just got to a point when I finished my fertility treatments that I was basically boycotting vitamins. And I want to start taking vitamins again. So that is something that I'm planning on doing 7 times a week. The third thing is doing some sort of meal planning. And that doesn't mean prepping and cooking my meals ahead of time, but at least 4 days a week, I want to wake up in the morning and I want to write down the things that I'm going to eat throughout the day. And they don't have to just be healthy, in air quotes, healthy foods. It doesn't have to be only low fat this and whatever it is that we've become programmed to believe is healthy when it comes to eating. But it's just going to be a realistic planning of what do I want to have? I usually know what my days are like in the morning. What is it that is probably going to be realistic for lunch? If I'm not going to be home for lunch, if I'm not going to take a lunch with me, where am I going to be that maybe I know I'm going to stop at Chipotle? And I usually get the salad at Chipotle and I know what I usually have. And I usually get a small side of the chips, like the little baby chips. And so I just know that that's what I'm going to eat for lunch. So when it comes time to eat, I'm not going through McDonald's drive-through because I've already decided in the morning that I'm going to have a Chipotle salad. This is a practice that I learned from Corinne Crabtree, who was my mentor, the first person who really taught me about life coaching. I went to her as one of her students to lose my weight after infertility. And she teaches a method that talks about how we don't have to deny ourselves of things. We don't have to eat things that we've always associated as diet foods. We can eat whatever we want, but if we plan for it in the morning, there's less likelihood that we'll choose foods that maybe aren't nourishing to us or doesn't feel right in our bodies. If you know you're going to have digestive issues after it, or you just know that your stomach's going to be full, or you're going to have too much sodium and your hands are going to balloon up. So it's just a way to pick out the things that you know are things that you're going to want to eat for that day. I've committed to do that 4 times a week. So I call these habits. And maybe you can look at them as goals. But the reason I like to think of them as habits is that they're things I want to continue doing. They're things that I feel like I would love to have part of my daily routine. And it was also important as I'm going through and deciding what habits I'm bringing into my life, how many days seem realistic to do? How many times do you tell yourself you want to start working out and you're like, I'm going to work out 7 days a week. And then all of a sudden, that first 7 days comes and you don't work out for 7 days a week. And then you're telling yourself, forget it. I already skipped 4 days this week. So I'm over working out. I'm not somebody who's like ready to take this on yet. So when you do things in smaller chunks and decide ahead of time that it's okay, that you're only going to do it 4 days a week and you're going to see how it feels. And maybe I'll get to halfway through October and I'll say, well, you know what? Like 4 days is kind of a lot for me this week. And so I'm going to just commit to doing 3 days. So knowing that you can adjust how often you want to partake in these habits and creating these habits. So I think that's really important. And then doing some sort of, so we talked about the brainstorming. So writing everything down that seems important to you. I gave you examples of what the 3 things I'm doing. And maybe when you're in your brainstorming process and you're writing everything down on paper, maybe find a way to rank what's most important to you or what's most achievable for you to do. And there were many more things that I wanted to do and create habits doing, but I just started with 3 because I know that if I overwhelm myself, I will put too much pressure on myself to do everything. And then my prefrontal cortex that likes to create drama everywhere will just tell me that I'm not really good at this. And that'll be a greater opportunity for me to stop and just say, you know what, I tried it, but it didn't work. So having that grace to decide what's important to you, how often are you willing to do it? Are you willing to reevaluate and say, this is working well, this isn't? Maybe this thing, isn't as easy as I thought it was, or maybe it's like super easy for me to write what I'm going to eat every day. And so I'm going to up it. I'm going to do it 5 days a week. Maybe during the weekdays, I'm going to do it. And then paying attention to why you want to do it, like what impact is it going to make? Is this a high impact habit that you're going to create? Or is this something that's really not that important to you and something that you'd like to table for later? So, this is part one of how to create achieving goals through habits. I hope that you pay some attention to what are some of the things that are calling you this month or this year. Let me know if you have questions about it. And next week, we're going to talk about it a little bit more in depth of some additional practices I take. But let this week be the week that you at least start brainstorming and just committing to a couple of goals and how often you want to do them.